We're on a mission from God.
And now for something completely different.
Let's get ready to rumble! Yeah, baby, yeah!
Good morning. I'm Pastor Matt Youngblood Clark from Ascension Lutheran Church in picturesque South St. Louis.
And this is, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you have more to say about pictures?
No, that's about it. Well, the other thing, I was going to plug something.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Our live nativity coming up.
Oh, that's right.
So I think since it is the season of Advent now, I guess it's safe to start talking about our live nativity.
Yeah, it is. That's right. Tomorrow will be the first Sunday in
That's
Advent.
right. Yeah.
So when is the live nativity this year?
It is December the 15th.
Okay.
So,
and, from when to when?
From 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So it's in the evening on a Saturday.
Are we bringing back the camel?
We are bringing back the camel. It will not be Frank the camel from the first year. It will be a different one, but hopefully just as energetic.
He was a troublemaker, wasn't he?
Frank was a character.
Yeah.
We had to keep an eye on old Frank. He ate part of the one wise man's costume. So it was a big wooden bead. Hopefully it all turned out okay for Frank. That poor guy.
That would be the guy that had to clean up after Frank. Well, that'll be cool.
Yeah, live animals.
Are you going to participate
all
again?
sorts of good stuff. I'm usually a shepherd. I usually have a shift for an hour as a shepherd. So we have four shifts of people.
You're
and
a pastor. Pastor means shepherd.
That's kind of cool. So, shepherds, wise men, angels. We've got choirs singing, and they'll be dressed up as angels, too, the angelic host. And we'll have live animals, hot chocolate cookies. So stop on by.
Well, and you know what's exciting for me is next year, not this year, I'm sorry. I'm still working on Saturday nights. We got church at 6 o'clock. If you're on the Illinois side of the river and you're looking for something to do on the 15th. But the year after that, I'm going to be over there to enjoy your live. In fact, if you've got a part for me, if you want me to be a donkey or something.
I don't know. We need a speaking part for you, the thespian Jolly John. We'll have to come up with something big. Well, you and Lynn can both come over. You could be Mary and Joseph.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
We could be a donkey. She could be the front, I could be the back. Because that's generally the position I am playing in the donkey. I am the jack. Anyway... So I'm John Lekumsky, Jolly John from St. Paul's Lutheran Church in New Athens, Illinois, and Trinity Lutheran Church in Darmstadt, Illinois. And no, we do not have any live. Although we have the cutout. We have the cutout, but it's up all the time.
What's up all the time?
The creche. We got Mary and Joseph, the sheep. They're made out of wood, and
so the whole season, you're saying?
The whole season,
gotcha. Okay,
for all the Christmas.
Yeah.
But it's not just one time that we do it. But do you have a display? Do you have like a Christmas display up, or is it just the live thing and that's it?
Yeah, we have a nativity scene too that's up. Yeah, the creche that's up the whole time.
Okay.
It's not real large, but it's tastefully done there in front of the church. It's very nice.
Yeah,
but the live animals are a little pricey. So the live nativity that's one night only. So,
you know, it's interesting you bring up the live animals because this might actually be of help to you. Well, we'd like to do things practical here on Wrestling with the Basics. So real quick, because I thought people, with it being the holiday season, people out there are probably wondering, how do I get my chickens to my loved ones back home?
Yes,
right?
Yes,
you're away, you're visiting, you know, you're working, and you want to send your chicken back home.
Your live chicken.
Your live chicken to your friends or family or whatever.
I'm sure that is a common problem that our listeners struggle with.
Well, I'm thinking maybe you could do this with your sheep and stuff. You know, I don't know how you get your sheep there, but maybe some people have some sheep. They'd like to donate sheep so you don't have to pay for sheep. You could actually keep the sheep. So, well, anyway, here's my point.
We'll house them in New Athens in the parsonage there at St. Paul's.
Well, that'd be fine next year. I won't be there. It'll be empty probably. That's a great idea. So did you know you could actually mail your chickens through the United States Post Office Department?
I was not aware of that.
I was not aware of that either. And I thought people out there might be interested in knowing that.
Just make sure you have air holes, right?
Well, I walked into the post office because I needed to get stamps. We were sending out the Christmas newsletter for the church.
Sure.
And the gal behind says, I think we need to move that chicken into the other room. and I'm thinking, well, somebody bought fried chicken or something. You know, they're having something for lunch. Tasty, and just didn't want the aroma because it was disturbing them. No, it turns out it was a live chicken, and it was not the good smell of a chicken that they were concerned about.
Is that right? You never know what what you're going to run into in New Athens. You never know.
That's right. Next time you go to the post office near Ascension, ask them if they have any live chickens that they're shipping out. All right. Hit that thing. Where is it at?
All right, now, there's no time for foolishness.
So anyway, what we're doing here is some odds and ends. I just got some odds and ends, things that crossed my path that I thought might be of interesting to people.
Good.
And so let's start with Joshua. Could we, Matt?
This will be fun.
Joshua
Let's do
6.
that.
Yeah, just some odds and ends.
All right, Joshua chapter 6, the fall of Jericho.
And so we have the description of the fall of Jericho in verse 21. Of course, we could have done the whole business about them marching around and playing the trumpets, but this is the end. This is what happens after the walls fall down.
Cut to the chase.
Yep.
All right, here we go. So verse 21. Then they devoted all in the city to destruction, both men and women, young and old, oxen, sheep, and donkeys. Well, there's your donkeys. Look at that.
Well, maybe I won't be a donkey then.
I don't know.
To think of it.
Don't be a Jericho donkey, that's for sure. With the edge of the sword. Oh,
so my dear father-in-law, Jerry, and by the way, he's doing good for all of you who are wondering. You know, Jerry had a little bout with cancer this last summer. Internal bleeding put him in the intensive care for a week while he was supposed to be here enjoying his birthday with us. He's doing better now. We thank God for that. They treated the tumor, and the tumor seems like it's kind of gone away, and they'll keep monitoring him and make sure it doesn't come back. But Jerry's really bothered by this. Jerry's been doing Bible study, reading through the book of Joshua, and he says, what kind of God is this that kills men, women, young, and old? So everybody, children, they're all getting wiped out here. A crazy term, too, devoted in the city with the sword. So how do you deal with that passage?
I knew you were going to ask me.
I'm just wondering.
Well, yeah, it is a tough one, and it's one we need to wrestle with, I think.
Well, that's wrestling with the basics.
That's right. How appropriate.
Yeah.
I think one of the things we recognize is, first of all, this is descriptive here. Okay, this is not prescriptive as we talked about. So this is not how we want to go about conquering cities today, and even going about war today when we think about that. But it is descriptive though, and for this time and for this place, as the Israelites now come to the promised land, the land God promised to them, this is what He commands them to do. Now, so this is a unique circumstance. So it's not, this isn't how you do it every time you attack a city, but in this case, it certainly is, and there's no way around it. So I think another thing to keep in mind is, who are these people in Jericho? And they're not followers of the Lord. Okay, they're people who are doing some pretty rotten things. Children's sacrifices and the worship of idols, and prostitution and things in the name of the worship of a god. Things that aren't good. They're also people that really had an opportunity to hear a little bit about the Lord too, it seems. So if you rewind a little bit, Rahab, remember she's the harlot, the prostitute there in Jericho, who houses some of the Israelite spies, and she knows who they are, which I always found remarkable. This is now a couple decades, 40 years after they leave Egypt.
Right.
And she knows about the Lord. She knows about the parting of the Red Sea, at least. And she really, in fear of the Lord, houses them. So they did know somewhat about the Lord, and yet these people, they're certainly not believers in the one true God, but people that are doing some pretty rotten things.
And I think that's a really good point that I hadn't thought about, Matt. But yeah, the Bible clearly indicates these people knew who Yahweh was. They knew the people of Israel. They knew how they had overcome the Egyptians. They knew the victory they had over other people in the area. They certainly had plenty of chance of repentance. That's the whole business. God didn't just come and wipe out the city. They marched around, what was it? Was it 7 days?
Oh, yeah, 7 days, yeah.
So I think they kind of saw what was coming. So at any point, any one of them could say, all right, yeah, we surrender. We give up. We understand that your God is Yahweh, and He is Lord of Lords and master of all creation. So that's a good point. They were evil. They were wicked. They probably did incredibly cruel things that would disgust us, and they had a chance to repent. So yeah, that's all good.
And I think that's so
bad.
Bad. So I think the worst of it is not just that they were doing evil things, because we all do evil things, right?
Yeah.
But they were unrepentant in their evil,
yeah.
and they didn't turn to the Lord. And I think the other thing is, as God has promised this land to his people, to Israel, he's seeking to preserve them too, because these are people that will lead them into temptation and will lead them astray. And God's preserving his people, keeping them close to him here in this, again, specific circumstance. And these people are devoted to destruction as he cares for his people.
And I think that's a valid point, too. The fact that he's got to preserve the faith of the people of Israel. And as you said, that'll be the whole story. No, they'll intermarry with these people. They'll start worshiping the same gods these people worship. Yeah, pretty much the problem that's been going all along. And everything you say, I agree with. And I think that's the general justification we give for why this has to be the total destruction of everyone, young and old. But the thought that occurred to me is, why are we upset about this? It's what God's doing today, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know anybody that's going to get out of this? Nope. He's killing everybody. He's killing everybody, young and old, male and female. Doesn't matter to him. Nope. And that's what just dawned. That's the little thought I wanted to share with you. Why should this bother us? Because it's the exact same thing that the Lord is doing even as you and I speak. There's no one that's going to get out of this. And it happens all the time that young little babies die, children die, old people die, donkeys die. Yeah. It all happens. Yeah. So why does this disturb you? Because it's what's going on for us right now. Well, read the rest of the text.
Yeah, death is a reality. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're moving on to verse 22, where it says, "But to the two men who had spied out the land, Joshua said, 'Go into the prostitute's house,'" that's Rahab's house, "'and bring out from there the woman and all who belong to her, as you swore to her.' So the young men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and mother and brothers and all who belonged to her. And they brought out all her relatives and put them outside the camp of Israel."
All right. So you already alluded to this. So not everybody's going to get killed. We got Rahab, who's a what?
A prostitute.
All right, so it wasn't that she was better than the rest of the people.
That's a good point.
Yeah, no. So she was doing all these evil, wicked things. In fact, that was her profession, doing something that is a direct violation of the commandment, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." What I think is super cool, though, of course, we understand that she is the one that did show faith and said, "Yeah, I'll protect you, spies." Made sure that they could get away safe without being killed, because obviously that's what you do to a spy normally. Yep. But what I thought is really cool is what it said here in verse. Where is it at? I can't find it now. Oh, yes, verse 22. Read that again.
Yeah, but to the two men who had spied out the land, Joshua said, "Go into the prostitute's house and bring out from there the woman and all who belong to her, as you swore to her."
As you swore to her. That's the reason she's going to be spared, because we told her that. We made her that promise. It wasn't that she was better than anybody else in that city, but no, we made a promise to her, and we must keep what we have swore to do. And to me, that was the thought that occurred to me. Everybody's going to die. We're all going to die because, as you alluded before, we're all sinners. No one's going to get spared by that. Sure. If you think you're going to get out of this because you're better than other people, nope. You may be in a worldly standard, but in the eyes of the perfect God who says we must be perfect as he is perfect, nope, we're all going to die. Don't be shocked at this. This is what happens. However, if God promises you that you will be spared, what can you be sure of?
You will be spared.
Right. So we rejoice in our baptism. We rejoice in the words that Jesus proclaims to us at the Lord's Supper. This is for you, for the forgiveness of sins, the body given and shed. We rejoice at programs like Wrestling with the Basics that remind you that right now, this very moment, I am speaking on behalf of the Almighty God. He has given me the authority to tell you he loves you. He forgives you. He has no desire to destroy you. In fact, he wants us devoted to him, but not through death, but through his suffering and death. I guess it is through death. Come to think of it.
Yeah, not our death, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but to the death of... Yeah.
And I think that's what's kind of cool about the way in which Rahab is spared, too. It's through that word. And then there's also a visible thing there, too. They tell her through that word, right, to put out that red cord as a sign that that's where she's at, that she is to be spared. And I think that there's a neat connection, that blood red cord, and, pointing us, I think, back to the Passover lamb, but then pointing us ahead to that greater Passover lamb, Jesus Christ himself, whose death spares our life.
So again, do not be troubled, dear Jerry, that God wipes out everybody. It's pretty much what he's doing. Okay, that's not a new plan.
It's not just plan. Jericho. Huh?
Yeah, it's having everybody. But also rejoice in the fact, as you said, he has given us his son, Jesus Christ, and who, by his blood, his full intent is we would be spared. Yeah. We might die, but we will not die eternally. That's what Jesus swears to us, right? That's the promise he makes us.
Yes.
All right, so that was number one.
All right.
Number two.
First
Number
odd
two.
and end
Let me
was-
pull this up here. Let's go to Isaiah. Let's do Isaiah chapter 65.
All right.
65.
Stay in the Old Testament.
All right.
Isaiah chapter 65.
I guess we should play a little music.
Yeah, we need some. Well, let's see here. I don't know. What do we have
Do we
here?
have music?
I don't know.
I
What
don't
do we have?
know.
We've got a ringing phone. We've got a
Ring the phone.
ring. There we go.
There we go. All right, and we'll do just like I do at home. We'll just ignore it. Have you noticed
It's like
that?
your old rotary phone at home.
Well,
huh,
that's
Pastor
exactly
John?
it. My old rotary phone. We got the landline. Nobody calls me that's worth talking to on there. That's all salesmen or politicians or whatever. So I've got it. I finally found it. Did you
Okay.
find it?
Yes.
All right. Let's read verse 25 of this great prophecy from Isaiah.
Okay, very good. The wolf and the lamb shall graze together. The lion shall eat straw like the ox, and the dust shall be the serpent's food. They shall not harm or destroy in all my holy mountains.
So this is the conclusion of this great prophecy of Isaiah of God creating a new heavens and a new earth. And this is how the thing kind of concludes with all the animals getting together and having a good time.
It's a beautiful picture, isn't it?
It is a beautiful picture. Let me throw this out to you. And actually, is it figurative or is it literal? Does it literally mean that when we get to the new heaven and earth that it's going to be like Eden, that all the animals are going to be just eating and grazing together without any hurt or harm? Or is this to be taken figuratively? What do you have a feeling one way or the other, man?
Well, we'll find out, won't we, John, when we get there. But I do like that idea of the restoration of that perfection of creation, though. I mean, before sin is in the world, this is how things were, in terms of animals living together, and there's not death and destruction. And that's a neat picture. So, in a figurative way, at the very least, the new heavens, the new earth. Yeah, it's going to be a restoration of what was meant to be before there was sin.
Do you think there'll be animals in heaven?
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. They're part of God's perfect creation. There's certainly, it talks about things like, the tree of life and that sort of imagery, that the temple harkened back to the decorations in the temple harken back to the Garden of Eden with pomegranates and palm trees and all those things. So if we're looking toward the restoration of creation, yeah, animals are part of that creation. Sure. I don't know. Are we going to have our pet dog? Is my rat terrier Pie, our little dog, going to be in heaven? Well, I'm not so sure about that. But animals in general, well, yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. Well, there again, he not only killing the men and the women and the children, he kills the pets too. What kind of God is he? Luther had the little girl last time. I think she had her pet pony, and she was wondering. And Luther's answer was, if you need that to be happy, that pet pony will be there. If you need Pie to be there, Pie will be there. In fact, maybe that will be all of our pets. Wouldn't that be cool if we get there? All the pets we've had all of our lives, they'll be there. I had Black Cloud and Tornado. We had Border Collies and stuff. So it could be, Matt. Yeah, you're right. And so maybe there is some literalism here. But of course, I think you saw ahead that I want to deal with this in a symbolic way.
Yes.
Okay. So here's the first thing I noted. What is the picture we always have about the lamb and not the wolf, but the what?
A lion.
Yeah. That every image you see, you got the lion and the lamb, and there's a little child there too. Do you know that's not in the Bible?
Really?
Where does that come from? Where does the lion and the lamb lying down together come from?
It makes for a good piece of art, I guess.
Well, it does, but if you read, there's two references here in Isaiah, and then I think Isaiah, I could look it up.
Interesting.
But who cares? Maybe people
We'll
do.
take your word for it, Joe.
It's Isaiah 11:6. I knew it was in there. But it's never the lion and the lamb. It's always the what? What's that say there?
Yeah, so it's the wolf and the lamb.
The wolf and the lamb.
Yeah.
So here's the thought that occurred to me. The wolf is usually a symbol for the enemies of the church, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, a wolf in sheep's clothing we talk about. Sure.
Oh, I didn't even think about that analogy. Yeah, so they come as hypocrites, pretend whether or
that's
not.
what Jesus says, yeah.
See, because I was also thinking of the thing where you got to protect the flock from the wolf as well.
Yeah, that too.
But I like the wolf and the sheep's clothing. So anyway, that's the picture. The wolf is that attacks, that is the enemy of the church. And so I'm thinking, maybe the point here is that when we get to this new heaven and new earth, our enemies will be our friends. We'll be grazing together with them. We won't be worried about that. And I was thinking, we've already seen that once, right? We had the man named Saul, who was a bitter enemy of the church.
Sure.
Lived his life to bring imprisonment and assist them being stoned to death. And yet in the end, he becomes one of the greatest apostles that the church has ever had. So do you think that's a possibility, that maybe in the new heaven and earth, the people that used to be our enemies will now actually be with us in the pasture grazing?
Yeah, well, definitely. I think that restoration begins already now, and I think I think Saul's a great example. But yeah, everything that Jesus did, the restoring of sight and making the deaf to hear, that restoration of creation happening even now when the reign of God breaks into this world, and even our listeners, when we hear the word, lives changed and faith given, and that's a beautiful thing. But then finally, at the very end, when Christ returns, boy, that full restoration, like the wolf and the lamb.
Well, and I also was thinking that when we pray for our enemies in the church, the next time that your pastor prays for your enemies, listen carefully, because we never pray, God crush them, God destroy them, like you did in Jericho, but we always pray, God convert them, God bring them to faith, God change their hearts. All right, so that was one thought. Now here's the second thing. Read the next half of that verse about the lion.
Okay, the lion shall eat straw like the ox, and dust shall be the serpent's food.
And I got to thinking, who is symbolized? Who does now the lion can actually symbolize Jesus, right?
Yeah,
we got that in Revelation.
Yes, this lion.
But who
Lion
else pretends that he's a lion?
Oh, yeah, just the opposite. Satan, right, prowling around like that roaring lion.
And so my thought was, maybe this is the point. Not that we're going to lie down with Satan. No, you don't want to lie down with Satan. But in the new heaven and earth, you won't worry about Satan because he's not going to be devouring you. He's just going to be eating straw like an ox.
Harmless.
Yes.
Wow, that's a neat thought.
And then it coordinates with the next passage, which talks about the dust that will be the serpent's food, which I think that is clearly a reference back to Genesis and the curse that was put upon the devil, right? From here on out, you'll crawl on your belly, dust will be your food. And so it's kind of like God is saying, in the new heaven and the new earth, you remember the curse of sin and death and the curse of the law that comes, because that's what puts us all in there, the law that condemns us. That's all going to be gone. All those curses will be finished. You don't have to worry about being treated like they were in Jericho anymore, because those curses of the law, sin, and death are gone. But the curse of the devil, nope, that curse will still apply. You don't need to worry about him. He's going to be harmless. He's still going to be eating dust. That's the one thing that won't be changed if we restore the new creation. Mm-hmm. If we go back to the original Eden, the one thing that won't be the same is there will no longer be any devil. In fact, how does that verse conclude? I love the conclusion of this verse.
Yeah. They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, says the Lord.
So no more praying, lead us not into temptation. No more need to pray, deliver us from evil, because when we get to the new heaven and the new earth, there will be no trouble with the devil. So anyway, that was my interpretation of that closing verse.
It is a beautiful picture, and it's one that I don't even think we can fathom this side of heaven. I mean, it's too wonderful for us to even imagine what that restored creation is going to be like. No more sin, no more death, no more temptation. We don't know what that's like.
Now that you mentioned that, let's do one more thing from Isaiah 65 next week, because there's another verse that actually relates to the fact that you just can't really comprehend it now.
All right, another reason of tune in next week to listen to Wrestling with the Basics.